Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali on TV1.
And a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline. My guest today is Mr. Harshana Nanayakkara, who is, of course, representing the NPP, of which the JVP is a component member of. Mr. Nanayakkara is, of course, also a attorney at law, and he. Thank you very much, Harshana Nanayakkara, for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much for having me, Faraj. Thank you.
Thank you. This whole week, Newsline thought we'd have a look at this whole business of raising revenue. That's one of the cornerstones of the IMF agreement, and the Sri Lankan government has agreed broadly with their terms. And therefore, in the context of raising revenue, increasing revenue, I thought at the beginning, Harshana, I'd mentioned that today is a pretty sad anniversary for the Capital Maharaja Group. Today is the second death anniversary of our late chairman, Mr. Kili Rajamahendran, sometimes erroneously known as Kili Maharaja. Mr. Rajamahendran, of course, led the Capital Maharaja Group, and we of course, all of us remember him very fondly, and also we appreciate the springboard that he has left behind. His legacy is one of opportunity for everybody, all in the quest of a one Sri Lanka. Mr. Rajamahendran often spoke about one Sri Lanka, despite his background and despite the employment numbers in our group, which is not reflective of the ethnic minority. However, Mr. Nanayakkara, how does one begin to increase state revenue?
Well, first of all, let me also add up to the death anniversary of Mr. Rajamahendran. I mean, I think he's a great loss to you, as well as I believe to the entire nation. I think he will be fondly remembered for all the things that he has done for the media, and so I bless him, or I wish him Nibbana in my own religion. That's how I can bring him the best blessings wherever he is. So while saying that, I will come to answer the question. Yeah, increasing revenue, a bankrupt country, increasing revenue. Now, the whole idea is the government must have a plan. What is the plan should be? The plan is we've been having a massive trade deficit running about 8 billion a year, simply because local production and services are less. We keep on importing stuff. We earn in rupees and spend in dollars by importing things. So therefore, on the long run or in the midterm, we must have plans how to uplift the local production of goods and services. Now, this is a long run. It has not been happening for a long time. It's a long one. But meanwhile, short term, we have to focus. I mean, our country is in a bad mess economically. So therefore, we will have to restructure some SOEs. Now, our party is not against restructuring SOEs, state-owned enterprises. There's what we call management restructuring, process restructuring, resource restructuring. All those things must go into restructuring, not just outright selling. Right now, it appears if this government is not working according to any economic plan. Why do I say that? Simply because Ranil Wickremesinghe a long time ago in the parliament said his target is to sell even if they are making profits in order to keep the primary balance into a desired level. So that's not exactly economic plan. However, on a policy basis, what I'm saying is, let's take case by case basis of these SOEs who are making losses and how it can be turned around, whether with private participation or some of the other restructuring programs. What I am against, or what rather our party is against, is this blanket restructuring process of selling them outright. So to increase revenue, just selling out won't do. But the earlier thing what I told you have to be done. But in the short term, we have to find ways to attract more tourism, because that's what we can do in the short midterm. Because on a good year, we could do about $4 billion worth of tourism here. but I don't think we are anywhere near those targets. Then talk to our local producers of tea or tourism or wherever and see what their immediate issues are and then address it. But right now, what we are doing is what exactly the IMF is telling us to do, right? Now, they will balance books. That's what they do, right? So they will continue to increase taxes. They will increase to cut expenditure on education and health. We can see it's happening already. So yes, the country needs revenue. And above all, the government must have a plan, a midterm, short-term, and long-term plan, of which I don't see any of this government. All I see is they are borrowing more and selling more. At least with the IMF, if you can negotiate that at least some of this money that we are borrowing to be spent on creating production in this country. I know when you say producing, you can't just produce things overnight. It might take a year or two, or even 6 months or more. We can't do it overnight. But for those who are saying Ranil seems to be doing this right, my answer is, tell me within the last 1 year, which trade, which industry he focused on to increase production? None, because ultimately this dollar crisis will be solved not by borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, which we are doing now, but by borrowing in order that we should be able to create local production going. So I think in a nutshell, I gave a very long answer for us. So you can step in and...
We agree, but how do we get about doing this? Because obviously there's one school of thought, which appears to be Mr. Wickremesinghe's plan as well, which is that government has no business being in business. That's well and good, but most of these state-owned enterprises, they appear to have this thought process, which is that they have a license to lose money, and they are constantly, forever and a day, a drain on the treasury or other state-owned assets like the state banks, like the CPC, like the CB, and so on. So where do we start? Do we dismiss all of these people, or how does it start? Where do we start?
The starting point would be for us to see how we got into this mess on the first place. And again, our political culture. You would see that most of these state-owned enterprises are overstaffed. Over the years, they put their political stooges and supporters just providing jobs. You look at universities, the same form. But if you really look at it, at a particular level, higher up, you can't just put them in, because only laborers and people you can just pump in. So one of the reasons these people are making a loss is being overstaffed, right? Overstaffed. So as I told you earlier, option is this: take on a case-by-case basis. We don't have all the information. Have according to national plan. Do we need this or not? There'll be certain establishments we need to keep it with the state, such as the energy sector. Now, again, Ceylon Electricity Board making a loss. Ceylon Petroleum Corporation making a loss. Have you heard of any person, any country, where the sellers of electricity suffering a loss, sellers of petroleum suffering a loss? These are corruption and waste that is inherent in these institutions. So just because don't think of privatization as a panacea for all issues. That is not the case, right? But some of them could be turned around with the restructuring models I told earlier. But the way to go forward, right? The way to go forward, I also agree with Ranil Wickremesinghe up to an extent, where I say the government doesn't have to do business. That I agree. But regulating the market, monitoring it, and in certain instances, things like energy, the government must have a handle on it. Why? Energy prices are very important for economy and for national security. If you look at Vietnam, why they're doing so well, they keep electricity at a particular rate, so production is more competitive in the world, right? So still I'm saying, we cannot let these state-owned enterprises to feel, no matter whatever we do, we take our bonuses, we take all our perks, and let there be losses, we get our salaries paid. No, basically we have to clean those places up by hiring good professionals and going on a case-by-case basis as to how they are making the losses and why they are making the losses, and then decide on each SOE what we should.
And isn't really the crux of the problem in that case, really, isn't it that we don't have, or rather we have a very weak system when it comes to public appointments. Public appointments are not transparent. The public officials quite often are not required to list their assets and liabilities declarations. Even in Parliament, members are required to give their asset and declarations, but it's locked up with the Speaker or the President, as the case may be in case they're ministers. But what's the whole point? It should be transparent. It is not transparent. No. And isn't that the lack of transparency? Isn't that the problem?
Spot on, Faraz. I think you have been on this program for quite a long time now. I've been talking with you. And in every program, in one way or the other, we talk about rule of law, accountability, and transparency, without which a democratic governance cannot work.
And on that note, Harshana, it's time for the break in which to take a peek at this evening's headline news, and we'll come right back. We're in conversation with Mr. Harshana Nanayakkara from the NPP. We'll be back on the other side of the headlines.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali on TV1.
10 trade unions protest in Colombo, demanding an end to the looting of the employees' funds. University students protest against Minister Vijay Dasa's proposal that curtails free education. Farmers in Ampara take to the streets, demanding a reasonable price for paddy. Control prices on eggs lifted with effect from tonight. President's all-party meeting on Wednesday. Opposition leader threatens to leave if meeting is another political game. Sri Lanka rupee, Asia's best to worst in 3 weeks, says Bloomberg.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali on TV1.
And welcome back to Newsline. I'm in conversation with Mr. Harshana Nanayakkara. This whole week, we're talking about increasing revenue to the government coffers. How should we do it? And I suppose we all understand why we should do it. On the second anniversary of the late Mr. Rajamahendran's death, passing away, we are discussing something which I think Mr. Rajamahendran was pretty adept at, raising revenue and transparency. That was very good. So back to this question of transparency, Harshana. Why is it that in Sri Lanka we have a total lack of meritocracy? Why is that?
Now, it's big. This is the one single issue. Now, everybody talk about economics and economic programs and all that stuff to uplift the country. But all I'm saying, unless there's openness, accountability, and transparency, no economic program is going to work out. Basically, corruption and waste must be completely eliminated. But in this country, the political culture has always been these impurative things. They stand above the law. They keep on appointing people who are not even, look at Sri Lankan Airlines, for an example. Some of the chairmen, I'm not going to mention their names, some of them didn't even have O-levels, okay, during the Rajapaksa regime. So if you look at each and government department, one of the reasons why all these things are failing is that they're appointing their political stooges, but not capable people to run the show. Under NPP government, meritocracy will be the rule of thumb in appointment, because this is how Singapore came along. They appointed people who know. Now we have a serious problem. Let's assume for a moment that a new government comes through and they have a revival plan, right? Now, if there's a revival plan, there should be human beings who are capable of working. Look at the brain drain in this country. All the educated people are leaving. Doctors are leaving. Professionals are leaving. So when we are trying to uplift the local economy with local production and services and whatever not, where is our public? All of them are leaving at a rapid pace. In about another year or two time, this will be a desert when it comes to intellectual capability and professional staff. So when you look at economics, it's just not economics, right? It is connected to other social issues as well. The health sector is in crisis.
But-
So where's the opening is that? We have a minister who says that the reason why there are funeral parlors is that some people die when they go to hospital. He says this. He says this after people dying of bad medicine or poor medicine. So I believe.
Sorry,
Sorry.
Harshana, you know, for example, when we were in the throes of COVID-19 and all that economic impact, I mean, our tourism went down to zero. Our airport had to be closed for tourism and opened only to bring back our expatriate workers back and so on.
Yeah.
But even during that time, we were treated to various allegations of corruption in terms of the procurement of medication. Right now, we have a problem with the obtaining of medicines. People are dying. I have personally been to the Maragama Hospital and the Karapiti Hospital, where I have met with patients diagnosed with cancer. And it's such a crying shame that on occasion, they don't have the necessary medicines even to do chemotherapy treatment. And these patients are asked to go outside into the open market and buy it there where it apparently is available. In all of these, you know, we had this disaster about the fertilizer. I think we paid a Chinese company $6 million. Neither did we get our money back, nor did we get the alternative fertilizer. Whose money, for heaven's sake, is this other than the people's money? The sovereignty of this country is with the people. When are these legislators going to ever realize that they're here to serve the people and the people's interest?
Probably after the next election for us, because the majority of that parliament, most of them will not return to the parliament. After the Golfes Aragalaya, people realize people have changed. They're waiting for an opportunity to vote them out. This is number one. Secondly, as a party, we were in the forefront fighting against corruption and waste, not just during the COVID time. Even now, from Anuro's talking about a flour issue, how it is being sold for higher prices, right? And then even now, lower quality drugs, even Express Pearl. Tell me something that is not tainted with allegations of corruption and waste. And this is public money. Parliament is empowered to look after public money. They are the reason. This is waste, corruption, lack of vision is the thing which made this country bankrupt. But the majority of the public are suffering, just like I said, in the hospitals, people are dying. They go for an eye drop because they were seeing disability, and they come home blind after being treated by the government hospital. So these are unacceptable things. What I'm saying is these people have no heart. You know, we all know for a long time they don't have any head, but they don't have a heart. This is public who's suffering because of their wrongdoings. And I believe public are waiting for an opportunity for an election to tell them exactly what they feel. And believe me, in this country, every crisis, this government and their oligarchy has made an opportunity for making profit. You know, every crisis for them is a profit. This is the problem we have.
Harshana, I hear what you say and so on, but I want to ask you, what of the fortunes of the NPP, JVP, you know, your party? Are the people, do you detect that the people are fed up with the mainstream parties and may go? There was a talk of a rally for the NPP or the JVP. Is there such a thing?
Yes, there is. Let me put it this way. Now, when you say rally, it has not reduced at all. But remember, people were really looking forward for election on the 9th of March. So when the general public sees a deadline or a finishing line, they feel they can run it and finish. But now the election's been indefinitely postponed. You may not see the same activity among the normal public supporting the NPP. But even today, the NPP structure, we are right around the island, discussions, meetings, and meeting people. Their likingness towards us has not changed at all. They like us. That has not changed. So what our fortunes are going to be in the next election, we'll have to wait and see. But I'll tell you one thing. Things are going to change. The system is going to change through an election. That's the first. It's going to change. The chances are, I mean, I cannot tell you what the election results are going to be, but this time, NPP will be a party that the people should be taking note of. This time they will.
Well, what would you do? What would your party do with the state-owned enterprises?
As I told you earlier, we'll have to do a complete forensic study. I mean, a forensic investigation and a forensic
Are you
audit
doing
to figure out
that
how
now?
and where the
Are you
losses
doing
are.
that now? Are you in the process of doing it?
We have an economic committee and we are consulting people. But as you know, we are not in the government. We don't have all the information we need from the inner perspective. But we do have a plan. But I'll tell you one thing: whatever we do, it will be done openly, transparently, and with reasons as to why we are doing it. Remember, we are not against private enterprises. We are not for keeping loss-making institutions with us either. But what we are against is the complete outright selling of things if they can be turned around. And having said that, now remember, put it this way, right? Now the government needs revenue, government needs money. Now, if the government is not in at least one or two areas to earn revenue, the only thing they can earn money is through taxes, by increasing taxes, putting more burden on people. And again, we have an understanding on how to do it, but we will do it on a case-by-case basis, not just the party alone, with all the professionals and people who are involved in that particular trade by consulting people.
We have
about
2 minutes to go before Nanayakkara will start pulling the plug on us. But can you answer this? The NPP, when you receive the people's mandate, and I make that statement, I didn't say if, when you receive the people's mandate, will you hold people accountable for their past economic crimes?
One thing we have promised for us, I'll be very quick because we have only 2 minutes. This country cannot go an inch forward unless rule of law is established. The reason why there's so much of crime and waste and corruption is because the powerful people are not getting punished. Yes, we will get the legal apparatus working on the basis of available evidence, on the basis of the existing law. Each and every single person will be prosecuted for economic crimes and the losses they made this country suffer. We will go one step further. We will use the Money Laundering Act, we will use the Extradition Act, and we will work with the STAR program, you know, the Stolen Assets Recovery Program of the UNODC and the World Bank, and we will try to earn as much as possible the money they stole from us. Nobody will escape. If there's one thing National People's Power would do, is uphold rule of law, and economic crimes should be prosecuted efficiently and diligently. And that's we definitely will do.
Harshana Nanayakkara, I very much appreciate your time with us here on Newsline. As I leave you today on the second death anniversary of my late chairman, Mr. Raja Mahendran, I'd like to tell you something that he was at the forefront of. He, without question, backed a proposal, and today we have the Gammadda movement. We have helped people who are, I call, the forgotten people. We have helped them from north to south, from east to west, to the hills and everywhere else. And we have made a difference. The Gammadda movement has made a difference. And I believe that that is, apart from the Capital Maharaja Group, the Gammadda movement is perhaps Mr. Raja Mahendran's lasting legacy to the people of our country. And may their suffering come to an end sooner than even Mr. Raja Mahendran thought. On that note, thank you very much for taking part in Newsline, for watching us. And by the way, today is also the day that we have completed 8 years of Newsline.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday for us.
Thank you. Thank you. And to everybody who's helped produce Newsline over the years, to Shehan, to Nanayakkara, to Harshana, who has been with us right from the beginning, thank you. There were many, many others too. There was Max and there was Chaturanga, everybody. Basically, Team News First, Team Capital Maharaja Group. Thank you. And without our viewers, who would we be? So thank you to our wonderful viewers all over the world as well. Thank you very much. Take care. Have a great evening as much as you can. And as always, God bless you all.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali on TV1.
Do you think if an election is held now, you all will have the same momentum and the traction at an election that is held in the coming few months? Don't you think things have changed now? The dynamics have changed.
I believe we can have the majority and form a government.
Why there was a trade deficit? Because we know our export income was drastically going down and the import level was very high by that time.
We as a political party is against government running any kind of business. Health and education has to be provided by the government free.
Saying that certain institutions have to be there with the government, whether it's loss-making or profit-making.
The loss-making state enterprises